My name is Jess Domiczew and I'm a project officer at Dyfed Archaeological Trust working on the Coastal Uplands Heritage and Tourism Project, also known as CUPHAT. And today I'll be talking a bit more about the project and also some of our recent work in the Preseli Mountains. So the Coastal Uplands Heritage and Tourism Project. It's an EU-funded project and an Interreg project as well between Ireland and Wales. And the aim is to work with local upland communities to help enhance their knowledge and understanding of their natural and cultural resources, as well as supporting the local upland businesses in sharing these resources through sustainable tourism and hopefully bringing more money back into these areas. Now we have three main partners in the project. We have Aberystwyth University, University College Dublin and Dyfed Archaeological Trust. And the four upland areas that we're focusing on are the Preseli Mountains and Cambrian Mountains in Wales and the Wicklowes and Blackstairs Mountains in Ireland. And the natural and cultural resources that we're focusing on, they're called our four themes, are archaeology, geology and landforms, community life, so myths, legends, old photos, artefacts, and also biodiversity as well. And my role at DAT on the project is to advise on the archaeology and heritage. So I've been working on creating citizen science activities for locals and tourists, but also I've been working a lot on the digitisation and reconstruction of sites. And this is once again to enhance understanding, knowledge, but also to promote these sites as well. And the aim of the project is we want at least 5 sites in each upland area to be digitised and reconstructed. And one of the sites we've chosen in the Preseli Mountains is the Preseli Ridge, also known as the Golden Road. Now this isn't just one small site, this is actually a routeway running 7.4 miles long. It takes about 4 hours to walk across. And the reason why I want to be talking about that site today is over the last couple of weeks, my colleague and I have been out on the Preseli Ridge digitising some of the key sites. So just to give an idea of where the Golden Road is, for those who don't know, this is our project's map of the Preseli Mountains region, and the Golden Road runs from where it says Fort, so that's Foyle Tregarn Hill Fort, all the way through to Foyle area there. And if we have a closer look at the Golden Road, I've sort of plotted some of the key archaeological sites that we want to enhance through CUPHAT. Not all of the sites will be digitised or reconstructed because they don't lend themselves to that. But today is going to be a little bit of a whistle-stop tour through some of the sites we've digitised and give a bit of background as well to them. The reason why CUPHAT decided to work on the Golden Road is it's so rich in archaeology, geology, biodiversity and the community lives as well. There's lots of myths and legends. However, we found that there wasn't really one place where you had the information on all those different themes. We also found that there wasn't really a sort of main map for the routeway that incorporates all those themes. I know DAT have a map, so do the National Park Authority. However, they only cover some of the sites, mostly relating to prehistory, and the links with the Stonehenge bluestones are some of the outcrops, the bluestones I believe come from there. And so what we wanted to do through CUPHAT was we wanted to create a more sort of user-friendly map as well, because we often find that when we're on the site, even with the maps, it's still quite hard to actually locate some of these sites, especially the outcrops. There are so many outcrops out there in the Preselis, and even myself and my colleagues have had to sort of trek up and down the hillside to try and find them. So through CUPHAT, we wanted to use our sort of digital resources to really help show what there is out there on the Preseli Ridge. And the idea is we want to create a map which will be accessed via, we hopefully have a paper version, a version on the website and a version on an app. We should hopefully have QR codes at either end of the walk which people can access. And the idea is you'll be able to walk through the landscape and looking at the map, there'll be interactive points on key sites and you'll be able to click on one of those and it brings up, for some sites, a 3D digital model. So you get a better idea of what the site looks like as a whole, and some of them will have interactive points on with information. We'll also include sort of text. We might have voiceover of myths and legends tied to the sites, possible soundscapes as well. And something that I'd really like to do is include photos or digitizations of artifacts from some of these sites. Because once the sites have been excavated and artifacts go back to the museum, that connection between the two are usually sort of lost. When you're walking along, you don't really think about the artifacts there. So we want to create an interactive map that's user-friendly and be able to bring all that information together. So to give an idea of how long the Preseli Ridge has actually been used for, some of the sites along the ridge have evidence dating back to the Mesolithic, and others all the way through to the modern period. So most of the archaeology relates to prehistory and quarrying of the outcrops. There's possible Neolithic axe factory as well. There's also a lot of prehistoric burial mounds. There's a lot of Bronze Age barrows. There's also a lot of enclosures from prehistory through to modern day. So there's a lot of information there. And like I said, myself and my colleague have been out the last couple of weeks digitising some of the key sites. So I will be having just a whistle-stop tour through some of them and a bit of detail on them. So the first site I want to start off with is Croesmahangel Bronze Age Barrow. It's in the corner of the field, right at the start of the walkway. And this is a monument which is used for funerary purposes. And sadly, this is what it looks like today. So it's really easy to walk past. It's been destroyed in the, we think, sort of early 20th century. It's actually on some of the sort of 1900 maps. So it must have had something there before. But the reason why we wanted to highlight this is actually an interesting site, and the artifacts from here are amazing. So it's had 2 excavations done on the site. The first one in 1958 to 1959 by someone called Wilfred Harrison, who was connected with Tenby Museum. And then in 2007, the Spaces project run by Tim Darville and the late Jeff Wainwright did a geophysical survey, and they found that there was a positive anomaly still there, which the earlier excavation had not picked up on and missed. So in 2011, Spaces decided to go back and do an excavation. And from this, can't see it very clearly, but they found that the barrow had 3 phases to it. So the first phase had lots of pre-barrow features. So there was a pit, post holes, possible half, and a arc palisaded sort of trench, which they believe might have been a complete circular palisaded enclosure, but that needs further investigation. And then phase 2 is when it became the mound, so they placed the urns with cremations in and covered it in turf. And then phase 3, which is a secondary burial, which was placed in the top. Now, as we could see from that photo, for CUPHAT, we couldn't really digitise the site. However, the artefacts, the urns, are amazing, and we wanted to do some work on those. So this is only one of the urns. So this is a picture when we were in the museum, and this is us processing it in the final sort of image at the end. So 4 cremation urns were found. 1 is in the National Museum of Wales, and the other 3 in Tenby Museum. And they're on display, and they're amazing, and I really suggest you go and have a look. Now, just something to point out here on this slide, it's the same with the other slides. The 3D models I'll be showing, I've only got sort of static images of them. They are on something on a website called Sketchfab, and on this you can actually move the models around, but I'm not going to be showing you that on this slide, because going back and forth to the website and back, something will go wrong. So if you do want to see the model sort of moving it around, the 3D, how it looks, then come to me afterwards and we can go and have a look. So that's the barrow. The next I wanted to move on to was Boiljeghan Hill Fort. Now this is the one that we've done the most work on. because CUPHAT have been collaborating with the Pembrokeshire Coast National Park Authority, TOMOS, on an interpretation project. So on this site, the hill fort is actually going to be fully reconstructed. So we're going to have two views for the reconstruction. One's going to be a static view from further afield, and the second view, you're going to be able to stand in the entrance of one of the entrances of the hill fort, and you're going to be able to use your phone and get a 360-degree view. So I'm really looking forward to that. Now, this site is sort of famously known as being an Iron Age hill fort. However, it has earlier evidence in the Bronze Age with the three cairns on top, which I'll discuss a bit later. It's the largest hill fort in the area and one of a cluster of hill forts in West Wales. And it's famous for having roughly 270 hut platforms. So they're the sort of dips on the picture there, and that's where they've levelled off land for the placement of huts. Whether or not they're all contemporary, we're not sure, but we think there would have been a lot at one time. What the site was used for, we think it would have had a sort of multifunctional use. We think it would have been quite a hub in the community, possibly a leader sort of living here. We think it could have been a place of craft, trade. There's other elements of the site which have less hut platforms, which we think could be for maybe markets, meeting places. So lots of things going on here. And we probably had as well, with the cairns at the top, a ritual funerary space as well. Now, even though the site, lots of people have known about it, there's only ever been one excavation, and that was done in 1899 by a man called Baring Gould. Now, he is a really interesting character, and a presentation could be done on himself alone. He was an early archaeologist working in France, Cornwall and Wales. He was one of the top 10 novelists of his time, writing on lots of different subjects. He also had lots of different roles in the community as well. Around this time as well, he excavated St David's Head Promontory Fort. So yeah, he had a lot of things going on. And here we have a plan that his colleagues produced, and the numbers represent the hut platforms that they excavated. The next sort of work that was done was in 1969, when the Royal Commission and the Geography Department at Portsmouth Polytechnic did a topographical survey. However, when looking back at 1899 plan, there wasn't actually much of a difference between them. So I always say hats off to those in 1899, they did a really good job. And then the most recent sort of hot off the press work, we've had some new data come out publicly called LiDAR data, and it sort of shows sites in a different way. It's a little bit blurry here, but you can really see those hut platforms. It reminds me of the top of a golf ball, to be honest, with those dips. And from this LiDAR data, we also looks like there's more hut platforms in the northeast extension up here than was previously thought. So we're learning more and more as we've been looking at this site. Now, through the excavations and people looking at the site, we think there were different phases to the hill fort. So first off, the first phase of the site was in the Bronze Age with these Bronze Age burial cairns. This is a typical place for cairns like this. When you stand on Voyageur and you look at the nearby hilltops, you can see a lot more sort of barrows dotted around. Now, these three cairns haven't been formally excavated. However, the poor things have been dug into by antiquarians. There's a trig point on the centre of the middle one. People have walked up and down, people move the stones, and people also take stones away as well. So we think when they were first constructed, they would have been a little bit tidier, a little bit fuller than what they are today. And then the next phase of construction is in the Iron Age. And we think the next phase is when we had this first rampart in a ditch, and the rampart's made out of stone. It encloses about 100 hut platforms, so straight away this had a lot of people here. We also think at this time, this is when they constructed a low-lying wall, known as a curb, around the 3 Bronze Age cairns there. You can't really see it on the ground, but aerial photographs and LiDAR, you can really notice it. So maybe it suggests that they were separating sort of an everyday space to one that's religious ritual sort of space. And this is also supported by, if you think about how much stone was required for those ramparts, they probably got the stone from the ditch, but those barrows there are easy access to stone. For those not to have touched that and put the curb around suggests that they really respected their ancestors. There's also in the excavation report, it suggests that there's an entrance, well, 3 entrances to the south, west and the east. But looking at aerial photographs and LiDAR, there's possibly an entrance to the north, but that needs to be looked into further because that might just be a modern trackway that's been popped up over the last sort of 100 years. We then have second phase of construction, which is this lower stone rampart. This time it doesn't have a inner ditch, and it closes about 120 hut platforms. So once again, another large number of people at this hill fort. We then have a final construction to the northeast. So this one, the walls aren't as robust as the other 2 ramparts. There's also a lot less hut platforms in there. So we think that this might have had a different use, maybe meeting place, market, something like that. Now, in the excavations, they also found quite a few artefacts as well, dating from the Iron Age through to the Romano-British period. So they found pottery from both periods. There was whetstones. We've got spindle wells, some of them really nicely decorated. We have a possible armlet as well that was produced out of shale. It looks like it would have been possibly for a child, but we're not sure. And then we have these really interesting stone lamps, which were interpreted at the time as, well, these stone bowls were interpreted at the time as stone lamps. However, when we look at them, we're not really sure what they are, and I think further investigation is needed. They also found an array of beads as well, glass beads, clay, faience. One of my favourite beads is a glass one, which when found showed evidence of in antiquity it had been broken and then glued back together again. And these are all on display at Tenby Museum, so I would definitely recommend having a look. So through the interpretation project with the National Park, we've got the reconstruction happening, but through CUPHAT we wanted to enhance that even more. So what we decided to do at Tenby Museum is we've digitised some of the artefacts. And then we've also digitised the site as well. And you can see us playing around with interactive points. And like I said, on the model, you can zoom in, zoom out, move it around, have a proper look. And then this isn't really for the public, it's more for us to sort of gain a bit more information from it. But we've been applying different visualizations, different lighting, different colours to bring out features. And here you can really see the curb wall going around, and you really see those hut platforms as well. So exciting stuff with Foldragon. Next site, quickly fly through. I'm going to miss the Carmen outcrop. We haven't been able to digitise that at the moment, but we've got some nice photos. The outcrop is linked to the blue stones of Stonehenge. But I just wanted to move on to another Bronze Age barrow at the end of Carmenin. So I don't know if you see it clearly, but that's Carmenin. And then we have the carnage just at the end of this 3 kilometre long, it's called the Stone River, and it's a glacial fluvial feature. And we have taken photos of the site, but we haven't processed it yet to create the model. So I've just got some photos here. At the moment, it's very different to the Croesmahangle barrow. It's not formed of turf, it's made out of stone. And at the moment, it's sort of got the exposed kist, and here you've got some of the stones, which look like they would have propped them up. They've collapsed in. Now, this site in 2007, geophysical survey was carried out by the Spaces Project. and then that showed that there was different phases to the site. So they decided to do an excavation in 2011, and here's an image. And from here they found 4 phases to the site. So the first phase, they think they found a pit which would have held a standing stone or a very close stone pair, and it's in quite a significant position because it sort of is over the top of a spring which goes down that sort of stone river. We've then got the second phase, which is when they had a circular enclosed ditch with a low outer bank, and it seems to, well, I can't see it very clearly, but this is the stone river, and it sort of goes round and encloses the end of the stones, and there's suggested to be an entrance to the southwest there. And then phase 3, it looks like they placed a stone circle within the middle of it, a bit off centre, and then these are some of the suggested stones. And then phase 4 is when it became a Bronze Age cairn with, they built the kist and added the stones over the top of the stone circle and formed what it is today. So one of the ideas that we had was maybe we could reconstruct each phase for this site to make it clearer to understand, because when you see it you don't really, can't really sort of visualise very well those different phases. And then quickly down the slope, so the map that we'll have for CUPHAT will have the additional footpaths going off. But I want to go to Carngoidog. It's another outcrop linked to the blue stones of Stonehenge. I just want to quickly talk about this one, just show the model that we've got. We think it came out really well. It was really hard because the outcrop sort of on the top and it's actually terraced down the side. So trying to get the detail was a bit frustrating, but we got there in the end. Now this site had geophysical survey carried out on it and also excavation in 2014 to 16 by Mike Parker Pearson on the Stones of Stonehenge project. And they excavated sort of at the side here, and I think they found a stone platform where I believe the stones would have been sort of prized off onto there and taken away from there. And then finally, we've got Carn Alu Hill Fort, an outcrop. Once again, another outcrop, but this time used a slightly different way. And I really liked this site. From Carn Alu, you could see Royal Tregarn Hill Fort and vice versa. But these are 2 very different sites, not only the size as well. Carn Alu is a lot smaller, and it seems to be a lot more defensive as well. So on one side, you've got sort of a steep drop of the outcrop, and then on the other you've got this sort of more levelled D-shaped area with like a stone rampart going through, which is sort of crumbling away. We think we may have had some huts in there at some point. Interestingly, there's this really big stone, I'm sure I've got a closer photo, big stone which looks like someone's been trying to dig it out at some point in time but gave up, so that's quite a nice little bit to add on. And what's so important about this site is it's got, I always pronounce this wrong, a chevet de frise round the front here. And this is sort of for defensive purposes, and this is where they would have put lots of little stones, sort of sharp point facing up a lot of the time, and it makes it harder for people, horses and people to get across and sort of attack the hill fort. It's then got a really nice entrance as well, coming up here with a lot of larger stones on either side, but it's sort of blocked off up here, which I need to find out a bit more from Ken about. So that was sort of a whistle-stop tour through some of the sites, but that's the sort of information and models that we'll be including on the interactive map. We are, with the National Park, going to be hopefully holding another public interpretation workshop with them. Once sort of Peter Lorimer has done the reconstructions, we want to show people and talk about what other things we can add, text, voiceover, things like that to make it more user-friendly. And also with the digitisations and reconstructions, there's still a couple of things we want to improve on some of our models. So they're not been made publicly available yet, but we're slowly going to be doing that sort of one by one. So if you are interested in keeping up to date with what's happening, then on Dyfed and CUPHAT's social media and website, we should be adding those onto that. So thank you.